I'm Filippos Proedrou. I'm a research fellow at the University of South Wales. I'm working primarily on energy and climate politics and policy and geopolitics and the new geopolitics of energy in the climate change and energy transition era. Climate change has always been coined in the public arena as an item of expense. We need more public money. We need to pull more public money out of the public purse, which is a problem. So how do we sell it? How do we go on with that? The idea was that there are synergies to be explored, but there were always problems with that. For example, we had the emissions trading scheme that would supposedly convey a comparative advantage to Europe, which hardly happened. There are a lot of deficiencies in the mechanisms. There have been problems in the Kyoto Protocol mechanism. There has been, at the same time, very important global dissent with the US, with George Bush Jr. coming to power in the 2000s saying plainly, no, that's not an issue. We also had the geopolitics of climate policy with the US and China representing two groups, the global north and the global south, saying who is going to pay for it. And they could not find a solution. This was epitomized in the Copenhagen summit in 2009, when there were so many hopes and everybody was going to Copenhagen in terms of state and non-state actors to rely and celebrate a great groundbreaking climate agreement. This never happened. We got out an agreement that did not push the issue further. In 2015, we had a breakthrough with the Paris summit, but then again you had Trump and nationalism. So climate change again went in the sidelines of the news. And the idea, the compromise in the climate summit was that, okay, we are not legally binded to action. And this was one of the great themes along the global climate diplomacy for 2 decades. So states got this, but at the same time increasingly understood that they should do something about it. And here is the basic difference. In the 2000s, climate change was a hypothetical threat to be verified with costs to ensue in the depth of decades. In the running decade, we have been seeing that there are costs that we have to pay for right now. The Stern report in 2006 was groundbreaking in that. But if you try to look and measure the number and intensity of tsunamis, hurricanes and so on, they do not chime with what was happening in the 90s. And climate change is a great factor. So governments increasingly understand first that they will have to pay more one way or the other. So selling it to the public is one way, but actually not getting bankrupt this way is a primary goal. Secondly, the public, when you have so many disasters and they are somehow linked to climate change, will ask for more climate action. So now governments are ill-prepared to read through the lines and have a coherent climate, economic, energy policy at the same time that now they are forced to do so. Even if the United States, where the Trump administration is so pronouncedly averse to climate change, most of the policy is not taking place at the federal level, but at the state level. And government and states are pushing through for bolder and bolder policies. So we set goals on the grounds that we have this amount of time. But as climate change speeds up and accelerates because it works in ways that multiply the speed and costs implicated, we understand that we have less time. At the same time, the response, which was very rational from a cynical perspective, was we're going to go on with some measures in the beginning to prepare the ground, to give some incentives to technology, and when technology matures around half the century, we can go exponentially to mitigating climate change. So the idea is that for the first half century, because all this adjustment takes so much time and effort, we're just going to reduce them slightly. And then after 2050 broadly, we're going to have found the technology so that we're going to reduce emissions by 80%. Okay, what is currently said that is 2030 that we have to decarbonize, more or less. If you think in terms of 12 years to largely decarbonize the planet, that's a huge challenge. And it means that what was rational in the 2000s, now with the benefit of hindsight, seems to have been a terrible decision. Climate and sustainability, how much can we have? Because now we have to work under the limitations of climate change. But the key takeaway message to take here is governments can no more pretend it's not there, can no more leave it out of the agenda, because they can find more benefits than not now to discuss it and suggest some solutions. This having been said, there is a huge impediment. They must not be seen to be compromising growth, jobs, and so on, because this remains a priority. So the challenge for policymakers is either to find synergies, in many cases they exist. On the other hand, it's to reconceptualize these issues, to provide a new coherent whole. Okay? So one thing is how you conceptualize it, how you frame it, how you enact on it, and how you reap benefits. The idea is that if climate change goes on, we are going to suffer in ways that cannot be diagnosed a priori. And we cannot imagine their shape right now.